Hello, I'm Major Mike Webb. I like movies, and a lot of folks love movies. Some teachers like movies, and sometimes even use them in classroom instruction, even in some of the nation's best law schools, where, believe it or not, they're actually law professors who will turn out the lights, pass out some popcorn, and pop on Cousin Vinny to teach law students everything they need to know about the rules of evidence. True story. Been there, done it, got the t-shirt. And they say the folks over at the Holocaust Museum had an exhibit regarding Americans during the Holocaust, where they took notice that back in those days, before the golden age of television, Americans might actually go out to a majestic movie theater, chandeliers and all, to put the world behind them, and engage in a bit of vicarious adventure as many as 3 or 4 times per week, just to watch movies. It was a diversion, it was entertainment, and thanks to those newsreels, it was how many Americans actually received their news. Not everyone can afford the luxurious comforts of a radio set in their living rooms to listen to Franklin Roosevelt deliver his address and his fireside chats. And back in the days, as movies were beginning to receive competition from video rentals and sales, one of the great movies of the time of extravagance in the 1980s was the movie Wall Street, with its sage old character Lou Manheim, who says to Bud Fox, "Quick buck artists come and go, but stick to the fundamentals, bud." And Lou Manheim was that good angel on the shoulder of Bud Fox to assist the lessons he learned from his father, who worked for the airline, trying to counter the perception is reality, greed, for lack of a better word, is good influences of character like Gordon Gekko, the villain you actually wanted to love. And why? He was rich, he was powerful, he ruled the world from Wall Street, had everything you wanted, and who doesn't want that, right? Even Bud Fox thought he wanted to be Gordon Gekko until he one day realized that he could only be Bud Fox. So what can I say, Bud? What can I say? A man looks into the abyss and sees nothing looking back. But then he finds his soul, and that keeps him from falling into the abyss. We have a pandemic and school is closed. So let me tell you why I'm running for Arlington Public School Board in a pandemic. In a word, getting back to the fundamentals. We have candidates running for statewide office trying to ignore the fact that there's a pandemic. You can't reopen business, reopen schools, restore the economy or anything else if you don't deal first with the pandemic. And even though he found himself hopping off planes during the campaign for president and had no idea where he was during his American Rescue Plan speech, old Uncle Joe Biden said, "We are fundamentally a people who want to be with others, to talk, to laugh, to hug, to hold one another. But this virus has kept us apart." And somehow we have candidates running for office who don't want to deal with that elephant in the room. Ignore it like a lump you find on your breast and hope that it's nothing. It will just go away like magic all by itself. But you can't. And that fundamentally is just plain common sense. But President, old Joe, said to you, looked you in the eye and said, "Look, we know what we need to do to beat this virus because you just want the truth. The truth. Just tell me the truth." So here it is, folks. The truth. Even before the pandemic, researchers did a test of recent college graduates who were asked what should have been a very simple question, presented as a hypothetical problem like professors do in many law schools. You have a bank account that earns an interest rate of just 1% and inflation is running at 2%. And your mission, should you choose to accept it, Mr. Phelps, is to determine if you are gaining, losing, or breaking even on your investment. And the majority of recent college graduates answered that they simply did not know, couldn't even venture to guess. A lot of people say we need to teach investments in school. A lot of people say we need to teach Black history in school. But if you don't know the fundamentals, you don't have the infrastructure. And this is just simple math. And now we have a pandemic where it might behoove you to know something, just a little bit about science. I don't know if you noticed, but over 10,500 Virginians today became fatalities to an invisible enemy and novel coronavirus. You think knowing just a little bit about science may have helped? The majority of Americans in November 2020 at least appeared to say yes, But in August 2020, the CDC scientists actually had to hire cartoonists to graphically illustrate for our visual learners who don't read anything where the entrances to the upper respiratory tract were located. Having noticed that some folks trying to be compliant with the facial coverings mandates did not even understand that level of the operation, how they work, much less how or if they even work at all. What's the new vaccine term? Efficacy. And that's another story in terms of advocacy, in terms of people don't know what that means. It's a good start that collectively a plurality of Virginians and Americans appear to recognize that the conceptual term science is a good thing. But we have to be honest, folks, because you have to first recognize that you have a problem before you can fix it. And looking at the empirical evidence and metrics when it comes to the actual concepts in science, the scientific methods, most of us are not getting a passing grade. Over 10,000 fatalities, mostly among the elderly in nursing homes, a known risk from the very start. And even the top docs in the state were having difficulty defining basic virology and epidemiology terms like trace contacts and aerosols. That diagnosis does not present a good prognosis for our terminal patients. It is great to be able to say in a press conference that the P1 variant from Brazil comprises about 46% of our new COVID-19 cases. But if you don't know that coronaviruses are the largest family of viruses and the largest in mass, provided by nature a unique and optimal advantage to have created mutant strains to eliminate the world population for thousands of years, and that this is nothing new, but have woefully failed before now, finding every single one from OC229E, the first human coronavirus discovered back in 1965, to SARS and MERS, and even the present novel coronavirus, lacking the bandwidth in secondary attack rate to be more than a marginal co-infecting agent. Without human assistance, you actually sound like an idiot talking about mutant variants to somebody who actually knows virology and epidemiology, even if you might fool just about everybody else. So, my Democrat opponent for the school board, whoever he or she may be, comes into this race with a unique disadvantage. They are running for school board in a pandemic and know absolutely nothing about this novel coronavirus. On the other hand, as the former operations officer for all Army Strategic Counterintelligence, who actually played a critical staff role in establishing the precursor to the intelligence organization that George Stephanopoulos, who I used to run into back then, reported on ABC News, was supposed to have alerted the former president back in November 2019 about an emerging pathogen and pneumonia of unknown etiology in Wuhan. I probably know more about a novel coronavirus than anyone, running for statewide or even local office. But at the end of the day, when the election is over, it is not my kid who has to go to school in a pandemic. It's not my kid who might die from COVID-19. And as a parent, that choice is ultimately up to you. So just ask yourself in this election, how much do you really love your kid? This is a no-brainer, folks. It doesn't get any easier than this. My name is Major Mike Webb. By God, I am running for Arlington Public School Board.
This advertisement was authorized by Mike Webb.
End of the day, I really don't give a damn. It's not my department, honest. And y'all come back now. Here.